The White House has released full text of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The TPP nations made their final agreement a month ago, but the TPP specific details are now available in more than 30 chapters ranging from telecommunications to intellectual property. Certain countries involved already have a large presence in purchasing U.S. ag goods. Japan, for example, is the biggest buyer of Nebraska's pork and beef and the top importer of U.S. corn and wheat. But reduced tariffs, thanks to the TPP, could help the U.S. gain an even footing with other countries that also ship products to Japan. Dermot Hayes is a professor at Iowa State University and pioneer chair in agribusiness. He joined us Wednesday to look at how the Trans-Pacific Partnership could impact agriculture.
There are 12 countries involved, and they've all agreed to essentially reduce or eliminate duties on agricultural products over a period as long as 15 years. Importantly, those countries include Japan, which has high duties on U.S. livestock products, and Vietnam, which has agreed to go to zero after 10 years, and which uses both duties and non-tariff barriers to keep our products out. So it's quite a major deal.
Which sectors do you think will have the biggest benefit from this?
The value-added livestock products, particularly meat, beef and dairy and pork, with beef being probably the biggest beneficiary and pork a close second.
And why are those so beneficial? Why do you think they'll see the biggest gains?
Japan has duties of 38.5% on beef, and they're coming down to 9%. And at 9%, their domestic beef industry is just not competitive with ours. They import their hay, their corn, their soybean meal, and that importation adds so much to their costs that they cannot compete with a 9% duty. There are some very specialized beef producers in Japan who produce a very high-end product that isn't really sensitive to price, and they'll continue to prosper. But the beef they produce for the mass market is just not going to be competitive. And we can get chilled beef into Japanese retail stores, and so that's quite a deal. In Vietnam, there's not a lot of wealth there to buy corn-fed beef, but they do like the parts of the animals that the American consumer does not like, and they'll pay a premium for ears, feet, tongue, and intestines, and in that sense, we're accessing a 90 million person market of consumers who will actually complement the U.S. consumer. We'll be able to keep the cost of producing pork tenderloin or beef tenderloin for the U.S. consumer down by selling other parts of the animal at a premium.
You recently spoke to the House Ag Committee in Washington, D.C. about the need to enforce trade deals like this. Why is that so important?
Well, we've signed other deals of this type, and most countries just tell their staff, their attorneys, to make sure that we do not violate the agreement. But there are certain countries, Turkey, China, India, that have a habit of signing deals and then not paying attention to them. And those countries, they've provided more support to agriculture than they promised. And my point to the House Committee was that you're probably going to need agriculture to support this deal if you're going to get it through the U.S. House and Senate. And farmers need to be sure that the commitments made on the deals are actually implemented. Now, the countries with whom we're conducting this TPP are all rule of law countries, and to the best of my knowledge, they have in the past policed the trade arrangements and stuck to the letter of the law. But there is concern that if we don't keep an eye on things, then countries will just sign these deals, take the benefit, and not implement their own more painful regulatory changes.
Would one of those concerns be those snapbacks in Japan, that they could revert back to old levels if a certain number or a certain amount of volume comes in under beef?
Yes, we have in the past experienced that, and the logic there is that there could be a set of conditions, let's say very cheap U.S. beef prices and a very inexpensive dollar, and suddenly you get this surge of beef in Japan. And it's kind of common in these arrangements to say, well, we're going to limit the growth year over year to like 20% or 30%, and that's part of this arrangement, and it does help stabilize markets and give some sense of peace to the people on the other side who are concerned about just a wall of U.S. beef or a huge quantity of pork entering in a particular year and crashing their market.
How long do you think it'll take Congress to act on this?
I've been told that it could happen this spring. more likely after the elections with the lame duck session.
Do you think they'll pass it?
We've never turned down one of these deals yet, and there are other deals where negotiations are almost complete, and in particular Europe is negotiating a free trade agreement with both Japan and Vietnam. And we cannot let Europe have preferential access as compared to us, because what happens is that Europe would have a 9% duty on beef going into Japan, and we'd still be paying 38%. So these bilateral agreements are viral in the sense that one country gets one and then the other country needs it just to keep their own access. And right now the pork industry in Europe is very, very concerned about TPP. They anticipate they'll lose 2/3 of their market unless they can get similar access. But to do that, they need to have their own arrangements, and they're pushing frantically to have those in place by the time ours is in place. And of course, if we back out of ours, then they could have preferential access. And that's exactly why we signed a free trade agreement with South Korea a few years ago. Europe was just taking our market share away, and we needed to respond.
If you're interested in reading the full text of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, it is available online. We'll link to that on the Market Journal homepage.